Welcome to our third meetup, the Static Webtech meetup. We are super excited to be able to launch Jekyll 3.0. So it'll actually be launched today. So you're seeing it go live in a few minutes. Parker Moore is the prime maintainer and written pretty much all of Jekyll. And we're super excited to have him here today. So without further ado, welcome to Parker Moore.
That was very gracious, thank you. So, as Christian said, I'm here to talk about Jekyll 3, which I'm really excited for, and has been 10 months, 11 months almost in the making. Well, the last release of Jekyll was in December of 2014, so it's long awaited, and I'm really excited to share it with you. So thanks so much for being here. I'm really, really grateful for your time. As Christian said, I'm Parker. I'm at Parker on things. So there's me during a photo walk with my company, which is Visco. Visco makes art and technology, or is an art and technology company. We build a series of different products. Our most popular being Visco Cam, which is a way you can make your photographs more extraordinary than they already were. I do server-side things here, and I really love it. So if you're interested, come talk to me about Visco too. So it's been a journey, you know, but I didn't stop believing, and I'm excited. I'm really excited. So Jekyll, the main repo, has nearly 500 contributors. As of today, it was like almost 488 contributors. So 488 different user accounts on GitHub, which amounts basically to people in this case. Have contributed to Jekyll, which is to me huge, and absolutely, I thought Jekyll was going to die when I took it over. I was like, oh, I'll bring it back to life. But I thought everyone was going to be like, Ruby, it's slow, it's horrible, etc. But people have stuck around, and I'm really happy and grateful for that. And as you can see, people are excited about contributing back and making Jekyll better. And there are also lots of bugs, so people find those. The community is very strong as well. Jekyll Talk was created a few months ago. Talk.jekylrb.com. You should check it out if you're not already on it. It's a great discussion forum. It's a discourse instance where you can ask questions and you can answer questions, and it's sort of like our own little mini Stack Overflow just for Jekyll. There's a post to share the sites that you've created, to share plugins you've created. We're really trying to make it as easy as possible to connect and get answers and get inspired about static sites in general. Excuse me. It's still popular. Like I said, had no idea that it was going to have almost 22,000 stars and have 4,600 forks. It's twice as, I just don't know how that's possible. So thanks to everyone who uses it. It means a lot to me. And I hope this release is something that you enjoy. The core team is 4 guys. Envy Geeks, Jordan Bedwell, Alfred Zing, Matt Rogers, and myself. We're always looking to expand the core team. So if you have spare time, we're especially looking to add some diversity to the faces here. So if anyone has extra time, even 3 or 4 hours a week, and is interested in getting their hands dirty and maybe taking over like an aspect of the core, plugins or some site generation or reading or anything, then get in touch with me, and I'd love to see you guys join the core team. We have about 6,000 commits, most of which happened recently. Over 4,000 issues and pull requests, which still boggles my mind. I was looking this up today, and between all of the Jekyll gem proper, which is only like 1.6 million downloads, which is still decent, but all of the plugins too add up to 6.5 million downloads of Jekyll-related stuff, which, again, just blows my mind and is really just humbling. It's used by heaps of people every day through GitHub Pages, Netlify, Surge, Cloud Cannon, any of these wonderful companies and services that are offering you access to Jekyll's power without having to deal with the installation process or without having to deal with with too many changes locally. It started out primarily as a way, it was originally called Autoblog. If you go to the very first commit of Jekyll, I found this out a couple months ago and thought it was hilarious. The very first commit of Jekyll is like module Autoblog. It's supposed to generate blogs. That's what the original purpose was. And so it's been used for blogs, many blogs since, and still is. My personal site is Jekyll. But now it's being used for serious business. This is policy.cio.gov. This is from the Office of Management and Budget in the White House in the United States. This, to me, is absolutely insane that people are interested in collaborating over prose and using Jekyll to present it. And that, to me, that just is absolutely incredible. So I'm really interested in making it stronger, more powerful, making it more flexible, and a better experience for everyone. So today is the best release yet. Steve Jobs always said, today we have the best X yet. This is the best Mac yet. And Tim Cook still uses that. And I think it's great because every iteration is going to be the best, unless you go backwards, I guess. But hopefully no digressions, yeah, or regressions. So I'm going to talk about the features real quick. There's this feature called incremental regeneration. What that basically means is we keep a cache of the last time we built your site, and we check the cache against your local, whatever is locally, and we see what's changed, and then we only build what's changed. This is kind of experimental at the moment. It works pretty well, but there's some dependency. You have to build this whole big dependency graph, and some of those dependencies aren't quite complete, but it works for me for the most part, and it's disabled by default in 3.0, but easily accessible with the incremental flag or -I. I hope you check it out and file bug reports and hopefully pull requests as well and make it better. This is probably the most requested feature. I think issue 405 or something like that, some very early issue from 6 or 7 years ago was, hey, you built the site, you know how it ended up. Can you possibly build only the things that I change? It's getting slower when I have 1,000 posts. So we're really excited about that. This is a feature that randomly showed up one day in the pull requests, but it's probably I would argue probably the most powerful feature in Jekyll 3. This is the liquid profiler. So if you pass -- profile to Jekyll build or Jekyll serve, you'll get an understanding of how much time, how many bytes were generated, and how many times a given file was run through liquid. We're in plans to move this as well to your any converters you have, Markdown or Textile or SAS or whatever you have, to also get that time factored in, so you can see if maybe something in Markdown is really slow, maybe you're outputting something very big, and because it's not in HTML, then it has to crawl the whole thing, and it's taking 3 or 4 seconds for one post when it shouldn't. So this is really, really powerful. This was made by a guy. FW42 is Florian Weingarten, a Shopify guy who has worked on Liquid for a while and is really great. So check this out. If your site's slow, first thing you should do is run -- profile and check to see the timings and check to see if you're getting massive output anywhere. If you're generating 3 megabytes on a file, then that's a lot to serve to your users, to your visitors, but also it takes a while to generate and to write to disk and to read from disk, etc. We have this new plugin API, hooks. This is probably the most powerful change that plugin developers will notice. There's some other changes as well. This basically allows you to hook into various parts in the generation pipeline. So Jekyll reads, and then it renders, and then it outputs, right? Sort of this 3-step process. Now you get access to a series of different hooks, series of different actions before and after. So for example, there's site post init. What that's triggered at the end of the init method in the site. So if you are interested in modifying a site or adding pages or doing anything right after that initialization step, modifying anything, then this is the hook for you, etc. They're all listed under docs plugins hooks in the documentation. I highly recommend this. This has saved a lot of time. I know Jordan, Envy Geeks, has rewritten Jekyll assets to use a lot of this for 3.0 because it makes it so much easier to plug into the rendering process and to get to modify your content at the time that you want instead of just monkey patching and going crazy that way. So that's exciting. And there are lots and lots and lots of other changes. We've dropped support for Ruby 1.9.3. We've added support for Ruby 2.2, which made some time zone changes. I wrote a blog post about that if you're interested. Windows support is way better. All the dependencies have been pared down significantly. So there's no C by default. I mentioned this earlier. There's no C by default, so Windows users should be a lot happier. It should install a lot more quickly and painlessly. You can use extensionless URLs, and what that basically means, and I use this on my personal site, is you don't need to include the extension for HTML pages. It generates a .html file in the output site, but when you type like post.url or page.url, you won't have that extension, and that's activated via the permalink configuration option. The default highlighter is now Rouge instead of Pigments. Pigments is a Python library, and it can get slow or be weird. Right now, to install Jekyll, you need a myriad dependencies. You need Python, you need Node.js or the Ruby Racer or something. You just need a lot of stuff. And Rouge is pure Ruby, and it's just a new lexer for code highlighting. So it's been much better and a little faster as well. So we're excited to announce that that's the new default. There are 15 or 20 pull requests that went into the process of Jekyll 3 or that are going into Jekyll 3 that are about performance improvements. The number one complaint that we hear from our users about Jekyll 3 or about Jekyll in general, Jekyll 2 in particular, is that it's slow. If you have 1,000 posts, it can take 3 or 5 minutes. If you have lots of includes, then what you're doing is you're hitting disk every time you need that file. So it can be kind of slow. And we've done a lot of work to optimize the performance of Jekyll to make things smarter, to cache things. Incremental regeneration makes things so much faster. Please do check that out. Yeah, so I took very little time to talk about everything. My request to all of you wonderful people is to contribute to Jekyll if you can. Whether it's the Jekyll new template has been modified significantly and has been hopefully improved. So anytime you generate some new basic Jekyll site, you'll get this new improved version. That's all in the core. And so if you see any changes, you could possibly make to make that better, to make it simpler, make it easier for newcomers, etc., then please do contribute. Documentation as well. You'll see on the top of any documentation page, improve this page. It's a button. It's a link that you can click, and it'll go into GitHub and allow you to edit that content and send us a pull request. I look at every single issue or pull request that comes in, and would love to see your faces in the pull requests. There are lots and lots of ways to learn about Jekyll, to talk with us, and to get involved in the community. I would like to take your questions on the features because I know I didn't explain everything, but I tried to give a kind of high level so that I could spur questions. That's a great question. The question for anyone who's listening to the recording was, are there any parts of Jekyll that you think could use some eyes and any parts in particular that could use some work? The whole thing, generally. But in particular, the way in our pipeline is pretty basic. It's just serial. We read, we generate, we render, and we write. And so it's input output wrapped around the regeneration process, which is also serial. First it does your liquid, then it does your markdown or your textile or your CSS or whatever. So I'd love to see improvements there. There have been suggestions around using using Liquid's drop class, which allows sort of only when you ask for it do we generate it, kind of, and then they cache it as well. So that could be a way of sort of improving the process instead of being very naive, which the way the core is. We really wanted for 3.0 to make everything as backwards compatible as possible, because I'm sure you can sympathize with this. The worst thing in the world is to write something one day that doesn't work the next because some jerk like me released some change that broke your site. And I notice that all the time whenever there are changes with any of the tools that I use, and tools that you depend on shouldn't break you without your consent at the very least. Which is why we're doing Jekyll 3, because there's that one site.collections change where when you iterate over it, you need that's the collection itself instead of an array containing the label in the collection. So I would say if you're interested in something meaty, the generation process, the renderer class, could use a lot of love. That could also speed up everyone's site generation as well. And then any of the dependencies, we're always looking to speed it up. We're always looking to make it faster, always looking to make it smarter. Incremental regeneration definitely needs a lot of love around building the dependency graph. So if you have any knowledge of that and of how that works, then that would be terrific. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. And you can always reach out to me. My email's on my GitHub profile. I deleted my Twitter because it was too much noise for me. But you can also mention Jekyll RB on Twitter to get a hold of us. What other questions might you have?
What about, do you think there's a place where that needs more attention than in the other place?
I think as a missing feature, templates is a big piece. It's a gigantic thing that we've talked about and just hasn't made it in yet. Templates is hard. If you've used Octopress at all, Octopress is a great example of Brian Mathis running a bulldozer, who's a great guy, iMathis, running a bulldozer through Jekyll and making it work. And not bulldozer destructively, but bulldozer constructively, in that he's made themes work. So you can release an Octopress, I think it's called Octopress Inc. You can release an Octopress Inc. Gemified theme that then your Jekyll users or any of your site builders can use automatically with just Jekyll builds. It just hooks in. I think you add it to the gem file. So he's making a lot of improvements. Octopress is a wonderful test bed for a lot of Jekyll changes, a lot of Jekyll modifications, Jekyll improvements, any commands, any this sort of thing. And I would love to see that fold into Jekyll at some point, theming. I think people are already making themes right now, things like Jekyll Bootstrap. That's really popular and really wonderful because it sort of gives you everything right there, and you run bundle install, and then you run bundle exec Jekyll build or Jekyll serve, and you go to localhost 4000 and you're good. So I'd love to see improvement there. I would really love to see improvement there. It's just not, the concept is not built into core yet, and we're not quite sure how to do. You have to understand where all the files are that you have to copy over to the site, or when you give it a theme. I mean, this is a big rabbit hole, obviously, so I won't go too far, won't shave the yak too far, but you have to kind of understand how you're going to generate the site. Is it a Git repo that you clone like right now, or should it be something that is pure and it's kind of like Jekyll new right now, but you're able to give it some theme URL or something? So an easy place to start would be if you give Jekyll new a theme flag, and you give it some argument like a Git repository that can, like Jekyll Bootstrap, for example, github.com/mmistakes, who does that? Then it could clone that into some temporary directory, pull out all the files that you need, and then put it in the new directory that you want. But it's a little convoluted. So if you have any thoughts on themes, there's an issue that you can find. Just search themes in the issues and add your thoughts. Needs a lot of work. We'd love to see it in Jekyll 4. Who knows if it's going to happen? The future is the contributors to behold. I only kind of occasionally nudge the ship by accident.
What's your greatest wish for 4.0? If time wasn't an issue.
If time wasn't an issue, I would rebuild the whole thing. As most developers would say about anything that they wish that they could improve. Yeah. So if I have all the time in the world, then I would rebuild it. I'd rebuild it in a way that makes it way faster, and makes it way more extensible. I would love to be able to, if you could ship like a Jekyll dash binary the way that you have like git dash something, then you could ship your own subcommands that way. I would love to be able to use plugins that are executables that just like take in like a protobuf or something, like some structured like JSON or something, and then you can deserialize that, and then you can modify the site, and then you send it back in and it sends it back in a serialized way back to Jekyll, and then it just like, I would love to be able to see a way to make a lot of the user interface better, and make plugins easier. I'd love to see themes. There's so many things that Jekyll could do to improve. And if I had all the time in the world, I would love to take on one or two of them. Doing a major release? We're interested in doing a major release anytime there are, definitely sooner. Yeah. So I tried to release Jekyll 3 in April, and then there was this one pull request, posts. We've changed the site.post instead of an array. It's now a collection, so it behaves just like any other collection you might have. So that one change I did on Sunday, yesterday, so I hope it works. I tested a lot. And so I was just waiting on that, because that can be a breaking change in a lot of ways. That changes access patterns, that's a deprecation, and so if it weren't for that, you would have had Jekyll 3 way earlier.
This might be doable before something else.
That's a great question. Something imminent for that could be 4.0. We tend to release new features as minor bumps, so it'd be 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, etc. So anything that breaks sites would be 4.0, or any major upheaval of core that would break most plugins, for example, as well.
Solution oriented, because backward compatibility drives that.
Right.
It depends on what you have to do.
Right. So I'm interested in avoiding Python 2.7 versus Python 3's experience, where no one's upgraded to Python 3. No one. People have upgraded, but you might not upgrade an old Django site, for example, to Python 3 because it's just too big a task, and it's just silly things like print changes from print requires parentheses now. You're like, okay, or whatever changes they might have added. So I'm interested in avoiding major breaking changes such that no one wants to use it, or that people don't want to upgrade what they already have to it. So I tried to avoid things like that in 3.0. If I could break things, and if everyone in the world was so excited about Jekyll 4, like they're excited about iPhone 6s, which didn't really change very much anyway, then I would probably do this gigantic refactor. I think I could do it within a year of the render pipeline, and make it all the more powerful. It would break probably every plugin ever, but I would love to do that.
It might be possible to build conversion scripts that would work for most people to just go through and find the things that have to recode, stuff like that.
That's true. Conversion scripts would be possible. Or even giving like we have a Jekyll doctor command. Did you guys know that there was a Jekyll doctor command? The way that there's like brew doctor. So basically, it'll whenever we decide to maintain it, it'll go through your site, and it'll read your site, and it'll process your site, and it'll say something crazy happened, or like there are two posts, 2 pages going to the same directory. One's going to overwrite the other. Like, fix that. I would love to be able to use that for, hey, collection 0 is now collection. You might want to fix that. But I'd have to be able to tap into the liquid pipeline, and I'm not sure I would be able to do that. So at any rate, yes. So the question, as I understand it, is basically, is there some sort of taller end to the long tail? So there are all these like tiny little issues.
Yeah.
Is there any
above just the changes or fixes?
Not that I can think of. We try to do a pretty good job of saying like there are 3 issues that have come in for this. People are sort of hitting the same problem from different directions. Let's fix this soon. So I can't think of one offhand. I'm sure something's there, and I just haven't looked through the old issues in a while. So that's another, if you would like to be an issue archaeologist, that would also help me a lot, because I do get every notification. I look at every notification I get from GitHub. So if you are interested in creating a cluster or something, then and I can add you as a member of Jekyll such that you can add tags and labels and such. Yeah. So the comment was JRuby every few weeks does a release where they discuss the simple beginner issues that people can dive into. You can check that out, and then if you whether or not you know the code, they might help you around. That seems like a great idea. I would love to do something like that. It's just a matter of time. So if anyone's interested in doing more of the meta stuff on top of Jekyll, like collecting issues and triaging, and we need a lot more help than you might know. I really like help.github.com, which is a Jekyll site. I helped a little bit with them building it out, but they have the search integration, which works really well, where you can type in like Jekyll. You can't type Jekyll. And you get a series of things that pop up. I mean, I think this is a wonderful site to start out with. That said, it's closed source. So if you are interested in an open source site, I would recommend, not my work. There's this sites page in the wiki. Have you guys seen this before? You guys have? Cool. I think the best way to learn about Jekyll is to read other sites and to just like poke around and see what's going on. This is a long list of sites and their sources and their respective sources. So you can look at the code on github.com or Bitbucket. I think it's all GitHub, but and in this case, they've forked Jekyll and made their own changes to Jekyll so that they can generate their site, and they link to that as well. So I think this is a great place to get started and to learn more about and to learn more about sites and to see sort of some of the best. GitHub guides.github.com is great, and then things like Project Open Data. I mean, what I like about a lot of these sites, especially Project Open Data and anything that the White House or 18F are doing, is that they're generally like simply powerful. So they're not using too many plugins. They're just sort of using the features that Jekyll has built in and doing so to great effect, I think. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Is one weird thing that we did with Jekyll was at work we sent emails using a service that I helped build. So when you like your forgotten password or something like that for Visco, all of those email templates are built with Jekyll and run through a Jekyll plugin that runs it all through Premailer and outputs it and does all that gunk. So then it builds this Go template source. So then our Go program can slurp it in and fill in the blanks and send it out to you. That's probably the weirdest thing I've ever used Jekyll for, personally. I can't speak to anything all that weird. People use it to like generate configuration files because you can use Liquid really easily, and because you can go from A to B. If you write a plugin that takes like Builder and outputs XML with that, Builder's a common XML generation DSL kind of from Railsland that I've used in Railsland. Then you can generate your Jenkins configuration. I don't even know. Like you can do anything you want because it's basically take this. Here's my data. Here's my templates, and like squash and fill it out. Like that's kind of it's such a basic idea, and there are 800 static site generators as you can see. So it's an idea that people really like and people want to tailor to their own needs. So you can do quite literally anything with it. You can generate. There's a Jekyll Opal plugin. You can write Ruby and output your JavaScript for your website. If you're interested in using Jekyll as a build pipeline for front-end JavaScript, you can do anything. I think what I like about it as well, and what makes it powerful, is that because it's just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you kind of get those three things, and then you can build, depending upon your static site generator, you can build plugins and stuff for it. It makes it more powerful, but because you just sort of get those three technologies, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you can use JavaScript to do pretty much anything you want. You can use Jekyll to slurp up CSV input or JSON input or YAML input from campaign finance reports, and you can output that in a Liquid, output that in your layout or in your file or whatever, and then have D3 come in and like animate it and present it in a beautiful, wonderful way. So. It's this simple sort of input, transformation, output that I think makes it so powerful.
Okay, who was the creator of Jekyll?
Who was the creator of Jekyll? Jekyll was created originally by Tom Preston Werner, who is a co-founder of GitHub. And he quickly took on one of his, I think at the time, colleagues, Nick Quaranto, Crush, on GitHub. And they sort of built it for the first several months with some other help from other GitHubbers. But I would say Tom Preston Werner was the original creator. He was the guy that has the first commit.
And what's the year it was?
2008.
And when did you join the team?
I joined in December of 2013. So it was a number of years after he had built it. And I joined when it was 0.12.1, I think. So it was before the 1.0 release. And I was about to go do an internship in Germany where I had all of a sudden all this free time because I wasn't in school anymore. I didn't have to do like homework assignment after homework assignment. And so wrote Tom 3 or 4 emails, including one which was an open letter, and I like sent him a link to it. So, speaks to persistence will get you anything you want, including the maintainership of a large open source project. And he said, I was coming to San Francisco for a week to visit my sister who lives here, and said come in and hang out. So we did, and then he gave me access. So it's only in the last 2 years less than 2 years, that we've shipped 1.0, 2.0, and now 3.0. So we're really excited. It's sped up. If you look at the contributions graph too, you see a lot of the changes happen sort of in 2013, 2014, 2015, where some like young, naive school kid was like, I'll just spend every waking moment on this thing. My escape from homework was to build Jekyll.
Did you end up changing the underscore posts collection to just be another collection in Jekyll 3?
We did, yeah. So we changed it to be another collection, but there was one major hitch, which is right now you can categorize posts by putting it in a subfolder. So say you're writing a multilingual site. You have English and you have Spanish. You can write an you can have a directory en/_posts and then es/_posts and put your respective posts in there and have it automatically apply to your, apply en and es respectively as a category to your posts in those directories. That was a major breaking change that collections right now do not support. And so instead of possibly breaking a lot of sites that may have used underscore to hide something or whatever, we've used the collection as the back end, but it still works exactly as it was. So there might be some deprecation warnings from plugins that's like, hey, instead of using site.post.each, use site.post.docs.each because the docs is now the array of your documents, of your posts. But other than that, it's all pretty much, it's all identical. I really dislike and feel really bad every time someone writes an issue that's like, hey, I upgraded to the new version. I was really excited about it. You totally squashed my happiness because I just got this big red blob of text that told me something was wrong and I didn't really understand why. So part of that's error messaging, but part of it's also just don't break sites, please. That's like move very slowly and don't break anything is kind of how I've done Jekyll 3, at least with the exception of the one change with site.collections. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm gonna, in the spirit of doing fun things with my friends here, I'm gonna release Jekyll 3 right now with you all here. You guys excited?
Yeah.
Woo!
Whoa.
Okay. So to do a release, Shh. That's true. There should. This guy Paul Robert Lloyd has been doing a lot of wonderful work today. To like there's some defaults bug, and I was like, I just gotta fix it. So, or I just gotta release it. So, it might be a teensy bit buggy, but like pretty much everything will work. If you notice something though, please search the issues, and please, if you don't see anything, file something. The only way that I know your sites are broken is if you tell me, because my site is like super basic and it doesn't do anything interesting, because I don't want to spend that much time talking about myself.
Do you guys have like a suite of really complicated sites that you test against, or is it just the unit test?
We do not currently have we don't have a suite of tests that we or a suite of sites that we test against. One thought, if I had all the infrastructure in the world, would be to take that sites list, that wiki sites page, which has like 800 or 900, if not 1,000 sites on it, take their source, if they have one, and pull it down and run it and see what breaks. And just see what happens. It's a pretty big time commitment. And like just in terms of running it would take a long time, and then parsing through the output and fixing things. So it, people are pretty vocal about, like, when you break stuff, people love complaining on the internet. This is a thing. I don't know. This is kind of a secret. It's the hidden secret of the internet. People love complaining. So writing an issue, people are pretty good about generally telling me when I've done something bad, and I say I'm sorry, and then hopefully fix it. But that's one thing that Liquid as well, the Liquid team from Shopify, were interested in. Like, hey, you say Liquid's really slow, but like, do you have any sites that we could use to like make it faster? And so they're changing some of their sites to be Jekyll internally, and the Shopify guy, Florian, like I mentioned, built that profiler. So he was like, now we can tell this is how much time each file individually is taking. So we're gonna add this. Whatever. How often has Git complained to you guys? It's the worst. The worst. So once I've done that, I make sure that the history looks okay. The worst thing in the world is to have a Git tag and to have a gem pushed out that you can't pull. You can yank it, but then you have to change the version. And then notice that like your site was bad or something. So okay, so that works. And then if I go to the, okay, there's version 3.0. What's this link here? 3.0 with hyphens. See? I knew I would catch something. This is probably the most boring thing you've ever watched.
This is the best part.
This is the best part? I'm honored. So instead of dots, it wants me to use hyphens because reasons. So we're just going to do that. And now I can do bundle exec rake release. I'm crossing my fingers. I hope it works. Nope. Command failed git tag. Oh, because I didn't update the version. Silly hat. To release a new version, please update the version. Lib, commit, amend. I'm the worst about changing my commits after I make them. Everything you know on github.com is a lie. At least in this repo. Push the changes. Push version 3.0. Gem push. Da, 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 da. It's done! Woo! So just to finish up, I want to thank everyone here for showing up, because you took an hour of your life that you didn't have to come listen to me speak about Jekyll 3. And thanks to everyone who has contributed and who's ever used Jekyll. You are the heart and the soul of this project, and you guys rock. So, and you gals rock, and everyone rocks. So, thanks so much. Close it out?
Yeah. That was really exciting, man. We got to see that live. We did the whole thing, and there was a little error. When we do it, when we make the video, we'll put some music under it. Dun, 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 dun. Anyway, that was so. Thank you so much, guys, for coming. That was really exciting. Thank you so much to Parker for coming and doing this live with us. That was so cool, man. Thanks so much to Wikia for hosting us once again. And yeah, have a great evening, and I hope to see you again next time. Cheers.